Your body never sends you a formal warning letter when it begins to change. It whispers. It whispers through small moments you almost ignore. The slight hesitation before you step off a curb. The way your hand pauses before grabbing something that used to feel effortless. The subtle feeling that your body is just a little less predictable than it used to be. And if you are over 50, I need you to listen very carefully, because what you are feeling right now might not be random. It might be the early signal of something that almost every person experiences as they age, but very few understand in time to protect themselves. Let me ask you something honestly. Have you ever stood up and felt just a tiny bit unsteady, but then quickly brushed it off? Or maybe you've reached for something and realized your reaction was just slightly slower than you expected. Not enough to panic, but enough to notice. Most people ignore these signs. They say, "It's just aging."
But what if I told you, these small moments are not just aging, they are the beginning of a chain reaction inside your body that, if left unchecked, can slowly take away your independence. I've seen this happen too many times. People who felt perfectly fine, active, independent, confident, and then, over the course of just a few years, everything changed. Not because of a single accident, but because of silent changes that were happening long before the first fall, long before the first serious limitation. And here's the part that might surprise you. It doesn't matter how careful you are. It doesn't matter if you eat well or try to stay active. These changes are natural. They happen to everyone. The difference is not whether they happen. The difference is whether you are prepared for them or not. Because if you are prepared, you can slow them down, even partially reverse some of them. And most importantly, you can stay in control of your life. But if you ignore them, they quietly build up until one day, something small triggers something much bigger. And I want you to stay with me here, because what I'm about to explain could change the way you see your body forever. There are several key changes that begin to affect your body as you move past your 60s and 70s, and they don't announce themselves loudly. They develop quietly, slowly, almost invisibly. The first one, and one of the most dangerous because it hides so well, is the gradual weakening of your body's balance system. Now, you might be thinking, but I can walk just fine. And that's exactly the problem. You can walk fine, until suddenly you can't. Balance doesn't disappear overnight, it fades. It fades in a way that tricks you into believing everything is normal. Inside your inner ear, there are tiny structures that help your brain understand your position in space.
They work like a built-in navigation system, constantly sending signals to keep you upright and stable. But over time, these signals become less accurate. Not completely wrong, just slightly off. And that slight difference is enough to create instability without you realizing it. So you continue your daily routine, unaware that your margin for error is shrinking. Let me ask you something simple. When was the last time you tested your balance? Not just walking, but truly tested it. Try this in your mind right now. Imagine standing on one leg without holding on to anything. How confident do you feel? If there is even a small hesitation in your answer, that tells you something important. Your body is already adapting, compensating, trying to protect you without your conscious awareness. And here's where it becomes serious. When your balance weakens, your body relies more heavily on your reaction time to correct mistakes. But what happens when your reaction time is also slowing down?
This is where the second change begins. Your nervous system, the system responsible for sending signals between your brain and your body, starts to slow down. Not dramatically, but enough to matter. And this is something many people don't notice until it's tested in a real situation. You might drop something and realize your hand didn't move fast enough to catch it. You might misjudge a step and feel that split second where your body hesitates before correcting itself. These are not random moments. They are signals. Your brain is still sharp, still aware, But the communication between your brain and your body is taking just a little bit longer than before. And in everyday life, a fraction of a second might not seem important. But in a moment where you need to prevent a fall, that fraction of a second can be everything. Now here's something I want you to think about. What would happen if your balance was slightly off and your reaction time was slightly slower at the exact same moment?
That's when people fall. Not because they are careless, not because they are weak, but because two silent changes happen at the same time. And this is why so many people say, "It happened so fast, I don't even know how I fell." But here's the most important part. These changes are not your enemy. They are signals that your body is asking for support, for attention, for small adjustments that can make a massive difference. Because your body, even now, is incredibly adaptable. It can learn, it can strengthen, it can improve. But only if you respond. And later, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that in a way that is simple, safe, and effective, even if you haven't exercised in years. But before we go there is something else happening inside your body that most people never think about. Something that quietly affects your strength, your confidence, and your ability to do even the simplest daily tasks. And this next change is the one that often catches people by surprise, because it doesn't feel like something is happening until suddenly it does. It begins with something small. Maybe opening a jar feels harder than it used to. Maybe getting up from a chair takes just a little more effort. Maybe carrying groceries feels slightly heavier than before. These are the kinds of moments people laugh off, but they are actually signs of something deeper. Your muscles are gradually becoming weaker. Not because you are doing something wrong, but because your body naturally begins to lose muscle mass as you age. And here's something many people don't realize. This loss doesn't happen at a steady pace. It accelerates over time, especially after your late 60s. Which means that what feels like a small change today can become a much bigger limitation sooner than you expect. Let me ask you something. Have you ever avoided doing something physical, not because you couldn't do it, but because it just felt like too much effort? That hesitation, that moment of doubt, that is where this change begins to affect your life. Because once you start doing less, your muscles weaken faster. And as they weaken, daily tasks become harder. And as tasks become harder, you do even less. It becomes a cycle, a quiet, invisible cycle that slowly reduces your independence without you even realizing it. But here's the good news, and I want you to really hear this. Your muscles do not forget how to grow stronger. Even in your 70s, even in your 80s, your body can rebuild strength if you give it the right kind of stimulus. It doesn't require extreme effort. It doesn't require heavy weights or intense workouts. It requires consistency. Small, regular movements that tell your body, I still need this strength. And when your body receives that message, it responds. Now, let me bring your attention to something even more hidden. Something that doesn't cause discomfort, doesn't create obvious symptoms, but can have serious consequences if ignored. Your bones. Inside your body, your bones are constantly renewing themselves. But as you age, this process slows down. Your bones gradually lose density, becoming more fragile over time. And the reason this is so dangerous is because you cannot feel it happening. There is no pain, no warning, no signal that tells you your bones are becoming weaker, until one day, a small fall, something that would have been harmless years ago, leads to a fracture. And that fracture can change everything. It can limit your movement, reduce your independence, and in some cases, start a chain of complications that affect your overall health. But here's what many people don't understand. Bone strength is not fixed. Just like muscles, your bones respond to how you use them. They become stronger when they are challenged in the right way. And even small changes in your daily routine can make a difference over time. Now, there is one more piece of this puzzle that connects everything we've talked about so far: your brain's ability to understand where your body is in space. This might sound complicated, but let me explain it in a simple way. Right now, without looking, you know where your hands are. You know where your feet are. You can move without constantly watching every step. This ability is something your brain manages automatically. But as you age, this system can become less accurate. Your brain's internal map of your body becomes slightly less precise. And this can lead to moments where you misjudge a step, where you don't lift your foot quite high enough, where you feel just slightly off without knowing why. And these small misjudgments can increase your risk of tripping, even in familiar environments. Now, let me ask you something. Have you ever tripped over something simple, something you've walked past 100 times before and thought, how did that happen? That is not clumsiness. That is your body's internal system needing recalibration. And here's the most important part. All of these changes we've talked about, your balance, your reaction time, your muscle strength, your bone health, and your body awareness, they are all connected. They don't happen in isolation. They interact with each other. And when multiple systems are slightly weakened at the same time, your risk increases. But when you strengthen even one of these systems, you support the others as well. This is why small actions can have such a powerful effect. And in the next part, I'm going to walk you through some of the most common mistakes people make without realizing it. Mistakes that might be quietly increasing your risk every single day. And more importantly, how to correct them in a way that feels natural, manageable, and empowering. Because you are not losing control. You are simply at a point where your body is asking for a different kind of care. And when you give it that care, it responds in ways that can truly surprise you. Now, before you do anything else, I want you to pause for a moment and think about your daily routine. Not in a critical way, not with guilt, but with honest curiosity. Because most of the changes we talked about earlier don't suddenly take control of your life overnight. They are slowly shaped by the small things you do every single day without thinking. And here's where many people unknowingly make the biggest mistakes. Not because they don't care, but because nobody ever explained this to them clearly.
Let me ask you something simple. When you feel slightly unsteady, what do you instinctively do? Most people slow down. They hold on to furniture. They avoid stairs. They sit more often. It feels like the safe thing to do, right? But here's the truth that might surprise you. This instinct, while understandable, can actually make the problem worse over time. Because every time you avoid using your balance, your body becomes a little less capable of maintaining it. Every time you choose not to move because it feels difficult, your muscles receive the message that they are no longer needed. And your body listens. It adapts. It reduces what it no longer thinks is essential. This is how independence slowly fades, not through a single event, but through repeated small decisions that seem harmless in the moment. And I want you to hear this clearly. You are not doing anything wrong. You are responding the way any human would.
But now that you understand what's happening, you have the power to respond differently. Because the goal is not to push yourself to extremes or to ignore your limitations. The goal is to gently challenge your body in a way that reminds it to stay capable. Now let's talk about one of the most common mistakes I see, and this one is incredibly important. Many people believe that walking alone is enough to maintain their strength and stability. And walking is wonderful, don't get me wrong. It supports your heart, your mood, your overall well-being. But when it comes to maintaining muscle strength, balance, and coordination, walking by itself is not enough. Think about it this way. Walking uses a limited range of motion. It doesn't challenge your muscles in a way that forces them to grow stronger. It doesn't push your balance system to adapt. It keeps you active, yes, but it doesn't fully protect you from the changes we discussed. And this is why some people walk every day, and still feel weaker over time. So what does your body actually need? It needs variety. It needs gentle resistance. It needs moments where it has to adjust, stabilize, and respond. And here's the encouraging part. You don't need a gym. You don't need complicated equipment. And you don't need to spend hours exercising. You just need a few intentional movements done consistently. Let me paint a simple picture for you. Imagine starting your day by standing near a wall or a chair for support, lifting one foot slightly off the ground, and holding that position for a few seconds. At first, it might feel uncomfortable. Your body might sway, but that's exactly the point. Your brain and your muscles are communicating, recalibrating, learning. And over time, that small exercise can make a noticeable difference in how steady you feel throughout the day. Now imagine adding a second movement, slowly sitting down and standing up from a chair without using your hands if possible. This one simple action strengthens the muscles you use every time you get up, every time you sit down, every time you maintain your independence. And then a third small action. Walking in a straight line, placing one foot carefully in front of the other, as if you are balancing on a narrow path. This improves coordination, awareness, and control. These are not difficult exercises. They are simple, but they are powerful because they directly target the systems that keep you safe and independent. Now here's where it becomes even more interesting. Your body responds to consistency more than intensity. You don't need to do these perfectly. You don't need to push yourself to exhaustion. You just need to show up every day, even for a few minutes. Because each time you do, you are sending a clear message to your body. Stay strong, stay capable, stay responsive. And your body listens. It adapts. Slowly, quietly, but surely. Now let me ask you something else. How do you usually react when you feel a little pain or discomfort? Do you immediately stop all movement? Do you become cautious, maybe even fearful? Again, this is completely natural. But here's something very important. Not all discomfort is dangerous. Sometimes mild discomfort is simply your body adjusting to new activity. And avoiding all movement because of fear can actually lead to more stiffness, more weakness, and more discomfort in the long run. The key is learning the difference between harmful pain and normal adaptation. Gentle movement, done safely, often reduces discomfort over time rather than increasing it. And this brings us to something that many people don't talk about enough: confidence. Confidence in your body is not just emotional, it is physical. The way you move, the way you walk, the way you respond to small challenges, all of it is influenced by how much you trust your body. And when that trust decreases, your movements become more rigid, more cautious, less natural. And ironically, this can increase your risk instead of reducing it. But here's the hopeful part. Confidence can be rebuilt, step by step, movement by movement. Each small success reinforces the next. Each time you move without fear, your body becomes more fluid, more stable, more capable. And over time, that confidence becomes part of you again. Now, before we move forward, I want you to remember something very important. You are not trying to become who you were 20 years ago. You are building a new version of strength, one that is adapted to where you are today. And that version can be just as powerful, just as independent, just as fulfilling, if you give it the attention it needs. And in a moment, I'm going to share something that many people overlook completely, something that quietly influences everything we've talked about so far, from your energy to your stability to your recovery. And once you understand it, it can change the way you take care of yourself in a very simple but meaningful way. Now let's talk about something that doesn't get enough attention, but plays a central role in how your body feels every single day. Your internal environment. Not something you can see, not something you can measure easily without tests, but something you experience through your energy, your clarity,
your mood, and your resilience. And this is where hydration, nutrition, sleep, and even your emotional state come together in a way that directly affects your physical abilities. Let me ask you a very simple question. How much water do you actually drink in a day? Not coffee, not tea, just water.
Many people, especially as they age, begin to drink less without realizing it. The sense of thirst becomes less noticeable, so you don't feel the need to drink as often. But your body still needs hydration just as much as before. And even mild dehydration can affect your balance, your concentration, and your energy levels. It can make you feel dizzy, tired, or slightly confused. And these are exactly the kinds of sensations that increase your risk of falls and reduce your confidence. Now think about this. What if something as simple as drinking a little more water consistently could improve how steady and alert you feel? It may seem too simple, but sometimes the simplest changes create the most noticeable results. Now let's move to something equally important: the way you fuel your body. As we talked about earlier, your body becomes more sensitive to what you eat as you age. But here's something many people don't realize. It's not just about eating less or avoiding certain foods. It's about giving your body what it actually needs to maintain strength and function. Protein becomes especially important because it supports your muscles. Without enough protein, your body has a harder time maintaining muscle mass, no matter how much you try to stay active. And this doesn't mean complicated diets or restrictions. It means being mindful of including simple sources of protein in your meals, things that are accessible, familiar, and easy to incorporate into your routine. Now let me ask you this. How do you usually feel after a meal? Energized or sleepy? Light or heavy? Your body is always giving you feedback. And when you start paying attention to that feedback, you begin to understand what supports you and what doesn't. Now, there is another factor that many people underestimate: sleep. Not just the number of hours you spend in bed, but the quality of your rest. Because your body repairs itself while you sleep. Your muscles recover, your brain processes information, your internal systems reset. And when sleep is disrupted, even slightly, it can affect your coordination, your reaction time, and your overall sense of stability the next day. So if you've been feeling more tired, more unsteady, or less focused, it might not just be your body changing. It might be your body asking for better rest. And sometimes, improving sleep doesn't require major changes. It can start with small adjustments: consistent sleep times, reducing stimulation before bed, creating a calm environment that allows your body to relax naturally. Now, there is one final piece that ties everything together, and it might be the most powerful one of all: your mindset. The way you think about your body, your aging process, and your abilities has a direct impact on how you move, how you act, and how you care for yourself. If you believe that decline is inevitable and irreversible, you may unconsciously stop trying. You may accept limitations earlier than necessary. But if you understand that while change is natural, improvement is still possible, you approach your body differently. You become more engaged, more proactive, more willing to take small actions that lead to meaningful results. And here's what I want you to take with you from all of this. Your body is not failing you. It is adapting. It is changing, yes, but it is also responding to everything you do. Every movement, every habit, every choice sends a signal. And those signals shape how your body functions over time. You are not powerless in this process. You are a participant. And that means you have influence. You have the ability to guide your body toward strength, toward stability, toward independence. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't require perfection. It simply requires awareness and small, consistent actions. So starting today, I want you to do something simple. Choose one small change. Maybe it's practicing balance for a few seconds each morning. Maybe it's drinking an extra glass of water. Maybe it's standing up and sitting down a few times with intention. It doesn't matter how small it seems. What matters is that you begin. Because every step you take is a step toward maintaining your independence,
your confidence, and your quality of life. And if this message helped you see your body in a new way, if it gave you even a small sense of clarity or hope, then stay connected, because there is so much more you can do, and you don't have to figure it out alone. Your journey is not about avoiding aging. It's about learning how to move through it with strength, awareness, and dignity. And that is something worth investing in every single day.